Hello, this is Matthew from Chicago, and you're listening to Two Broads Talking Politics.
Hey everyone, this is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics, and I'm here in this episode with Ken Harbaugh, who is running for Congress in the Ohio 7th District.
Great to be here, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to see you, and it's a rare treat for me to record in person, so this is exciting. So just to start, can you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and why you're running for Congress?
Well, I never expected to be doing this, to be perfectly honest with you. Spent the first half of my career flying in the U.S. Navy, flying signals intelligence missions over the Middle East, off in North Korea. I ended up getting out, going back to school, and found myself running Team Rubicon Global, a disaster relief organization that has retrained now 50,000 military vets to deploy around the world to disasters to help people on the worst days of their lives. Never thought I would leave the best job I'd ever had, but you know what? 2016 felt like its own kind of disaster. And I'm talking about the division, the anger, the rancor coming from both sides. And I realized I can either keep complaining from the sidelines, or I can step into the breach and be part of the solution, do something about it, and run for Congress.
So your campaign slogan and the name of this town hall that you're about to do is Country Over Party. So can you talk a little bit about what that means to you?
Sure. And it's not just a slogan. It really is how I believe I've lived my life. I was born just outside a military base, grew up in a military family where we didn't care about the politics of our neighbors. We cared about neighborliness. And in the Navy, you didn't care about the politics of the sailor to your right or to your left. You got the mission done. And if you didn't work together, you didn't get the mission done. Sometimes you paid with your life. I mean, I remember losing an engine off of North Korea. And in that moment, I didn't turn to my co-pilot and say, are you a Republican or a Democrat? We put the engine to bed. We actually finished the mission. We landed the plane, saved the crew. We have got to get back to that kind of mission-oriented ethos in our politics.
So, and maybe this starts to answer this question. The Ohio 7th District, and we can talk a little bit about the weird shape of this district, like a lot of Ohio districts.
Yep.
But it has voted fairly heavily Republican the past few cycles. So you're running as a Democrat.
Sure.
So what is the strategy then for winning in a district like this?
Right. Well, the strategy is to show up and to be present and to look folks in the eye and to make the case. And to the point about it being a Republican or a Democratic district, the reality is independents outnumber both in this district. This is a district that elected Sherrod Brown, so we know there are Ohioans, as there always have been, who think for themselves. They look past the D or the R after your name, and one of the most encouraging things that I have seen out there on the campaign trail, knocking on doors, having conversations in driveways, holding town halls like we're about to do, is the reality that the vast majority of Ohioans, like I want to believe the vast majority of Americans, don't think of themselves first and foremost as Republicans or Democrats. They're Americans, and then they're Ohioans. They're parents, they're coaches, they're military veterans. Somewhere way, way, way down the list, they might be a Republican or a Democrat, but that is almost always the last thing people harp on when I'm talking to them.
So I've been hearing from people that you do a lot of knocking on doors.
We do.
That you and your team have been doing a ton of canvassing. Can you talk a little bit about that? Our most recent episode was actually about canvassing. Good. So it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. So what are you hearing as you talk to people, as you knock on doors?
It is one of my favorite parts of the job. And I lump it in with field more generally, and that's the knocking on doors. That's the holding the town halls, the going out to county fairs. It's showing up. I mean, it is if I had to identify one part of the job description that needs to be in bold and all caps and underlined, it's be present. We had a participant in one of our recent town halls come up to me afterwards and said, you realize that the word present is in the job title, representative. And I like that because it describes the most important part of the job, and lucky for me, the best part of the job. I love getting out there and talking to folks, and for the life of me, cannot understand why you wouldn't. Yet we've got an incumbent who seems terrified of his own voters. And, that's not leadership. It's certainly not taking advantage of what's the best part of the job, which is meeting voters where they are, looking them in the eye and having real conversations.
So speaking of showing up and being present, and since I'm actually in person with you, I can see this for myself. You broke your nose.
I didn't break my nose. The steering wheel of the campaign truck broke my nose for a great cause. It was the Knox County Fair Rough Trucks competition. We picked up a 99 Chevy Silverado by the side of the road at 3 p.m. the day before. Got all the paperwork filed, and I entered the competition the next day, and my goal was to leave that truck on the track undrivable, and I sure as heck succeeded. If you haven't seen the pictures, you should. We broke it in half.
I also wanted to ask a little bit about what the issues are that are really driving you.
Yeah.
What matters to you, and by extension to people in the 7th District? What are the issues that are really driving this campaign? Healthcare, and it is intimately connected. How we deal with the healthcare crisis, it's intimately connected with the opioid epidemic, with economic security and people being able to find better jobs and more fulfilling jobs. But when I think about healthcare, it's not just a political issue for me. It's a deeply personal issue because my middle daughter, Lizzie, has a pre-existing condition. She was born needing 4 surgeries before she turned 4 years old. And we scheduled the first one of those not knowing, Anne-Marie and I, my wife and I, how we would pay for it. And that is a terrifying place to be in as a family, as a father. No family should have to go through that. We're the richest country on earth. We can figure this out. But to have added to that worry as you're leaving the operating room, having laid your 6-month-old baby on that table, wondering how it's going to turn out, having to sit down in the waiting room and wonder if that operation is going to bankrupt your family is unforgivable. We have got to do better. Is this something that is also something you're hearing as you're going around and talking to people?
Oh, yeah.
Is healthcare an issue? Healthcare is usually the first or second issue that folks bring up, and they often talk about it in terms of their jobs and wanting to take advantage of better job offers and being terrified, though, about leaving a healthcare plan behind. I hear that all the time. A gentleman here in Stark County who said, I've always wanted to chase that dream job, but I am stuck in the job I've got because I've got a kid with a pre-existing condition and we're on a health care plan that'll take care of her, and I don't know if the next one will. It puts the brakes on economic mobility. It puts the brakes on innovation, on growth. And then you have the conversations with folks who are terrified about what's coming down the pike in terms of pre-existing conditions and removing those protections. We obviously, as a family, have dealt with that. But there are tens of thousands of Ohioans in this district and millions of Americans who have a pre-existing condition who wonder if they're going to be left out in the cold. And that's not right. That's not what I fought for. Can we also briefly talk about what the 7th District looks like? So we are right now in Canton, which is a city. It's a small city, but it's a city. I was earlier today in another part of your district, which is Amish country. So this is a district that sort of spans a lot of different areas. Can you talk a little bit about what the district looks like?
Sure. You pretty much need a map because it's hard to paint the mental picture given what the State House did to it. It starts up near Lake Erie, Lorain County. It comes all the way down to Knox County and then curls over We got Tuscarawas and Coshocton and Holmes, and then back up to Stark County. And the best thing about it is the opportunity to meet Ohioans from every corner of a district like this and build a coalition of unlikely allies that no one thought possible that we are bringing together. And that's been a really cool experience. I mean, one of the first questions I asked my team early on was, what's the toughest part of the district? And I think they thought I was asking a different kind of question because they said, you got to avoid Amish country. They're probably not going to vote for you. And so I made it a priority to get down to Amish country. And I have canned more chickens with the Amish than I care to think about. And we have a great time every time. We're not always going to see eye to eye, and I hope we don't, because that wouldn't be democracy. But people, it turns out, are really respectful of the fact that you're showing up, especially in a district where the incumbent just doesn't show up.
Are you finding that people don't actually know what district they're in or who their representative is?
Both. And I can forgive the first part, not knowing what district you're in, given just how crazy the lines are. But the vast, vast majority, over 90%, I would say 95% of the people we talk to don't even know who their congressman is. They've never met him. They've never seen him. They've never heard from him. They are just now beginning to get mailers that they are paying for because I think there may be some awareness setting in that showing up for the job is a requirement. But to let years and years and years go by without talking to your constituents is there's no excuse for it.
All right. Well, I know you're getting ready for your town hall, so I don't want to keep you too long. But are there any things that you want to make sure that our listeners know about you in this campaign?
Yeah, and it's the idea of this kind of service as an extension of a lifetime of service. I really do see it that way. I think about my time in the Navy. I think about my time leading Team Rubicon Global, sending disaster relief missions around the country, around the world, and thinking that this is in keeping with that. And it really goes back to an oath of office that I swore as a 22-year-old upon joining the Navy, when I raised my right hand and swore to support and defend not a party, certainly not any particular individual, but the Constitution of the United States. The first three words of which are "We the People." This is a people-powered campaign, and I really do mean it when I say country over party.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And my younger son's middle name is Kenneth, so Ken is a name I like a lot. So
Great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.
This is the Mid-Pod, the Midterms podcast. I'm Nisi Panetta.
And I'm Heather Atwood.
We are two progressive moms traveling America to chronicle what may well be the most important set of elections of our lifetime.
We'll introduce you to the amazing candidates running for Congress and who we think put country over party. And you're invited to the Citizens Potluck we hold in every district.
There's no doubt our democracy is in trouble. We've got to pay attention and get involved.
Change and reform can happen in a healthy way in this country if we vote in the midterm elections.
So tune in every Tuesday to the Mid-Pod and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm here in this segment with Janet Garrett, who is running for Congress in the Ohio 4th District. Hi, Janet.
Hello, Kelly. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Can we start out? Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, and why you're running for Congress now?
Wonderful, yes. I've lived in Ohio my whole life. I spent 35 years as a teacher in public schools. I am a former Peace Corps volunteer. During the 35 years that I taught, I spent 20 of those years on the executive council of my teachers union in various offices, including president. I was at the negotiating table many, many times. And what I learned from being at the negotiating table is that you go in with what you want, but you come back with what you can live with. And that's the essence of compromise. And when I look at our government right now and I see how broken it is, I see that the whole idea of working together and compromising has completely